Hey, this is Flo, and in this video I will teach you 3 ways to react to changes in a text field in SwiftUI. So I have created a sample project here, which is completely empty. I just have this content view, and to get started I will replace this text element with a text field. And now you can see there are plenty of different initializers for the text field. And the one that we are going to use is this one with a title as a string, a text as a binding to the string, which is the variable into which the user will write, then a closure when the editing state changes, so this will get called when the user starts editing in the text field and when he stops editing in the text field, and then a closure which gets called when the user presses enter. So let's hit enter ourselves. So first of all, let's call this text field text1. For the text variable, we need a variable in our content view, so we need to declare this as a state, var text1, and let's just initialize it to be an empty string in the beginning, and now we can bind to it using the $ syntax. Okay, now let's hit enter in this onEditingChanged closure. We can call this boolean editing, and let's just print editing and insert this boolean variable in here, and we will try this out in just a second so you can see what happens. And then in the onCommit closure we will just print committed. Okay, so I'll run this now in the simulator. As you can see, we have our very simple text field here. I will open the console. So as you just saw, when I clicked into the text field, editing true was called. So this editing closure here was called with the editing variable set to true. Now I can, now I can enter some text here, and nothing gets called in our code. But once I hit enter, then our onCommit closure gets called, and the editing closure gets called once again with editing set to false. So this is one way to interpret action from a text field. Let's close this again, and I'll show you the next way. So let's create another text field, and for this one we will use the simplest initializer with just a title and a binding to a text. So let's call this one text2. Let's create another state variable. And let's bind to it using the $ syntax, just like this. And now we will use a modifier from SwiftUI which is called onChange off. So let's just hit enter here. First of all, you pass in a variable here. So onChange of text2 perform, and now this gives us the new value. And now we can, for example, print the new value. So let's try this out in the simulator. Let's hit run. And if we go over here, start editing the second text field and open up the console again. And if I press A, then you can see it's printed and so on. So the new value in the text field is always passed into this closure of the onChange modifier. Okay, and now there's a third way, which I personally prefer because it can be used in the MVVM pattern and it also uses combine. The issue with this onChange modifier is that you normally don't want to have any logic inside of your view. So what you normally do, and let's do this together now, is you create a view model. You can also do this outside of this file, but for simplicity reasons I will just do it right here, so we always have everything on screen. You give your view model some variable. Let's call this one text3. So instead of creating a state in our view, we create a published variable in the view model, which needs to be an observable object. And now what we can do is we get back into our view, we create a text field, once again with the exact same initializer as before. We call this one text3, and now for the binding we need a view model, so we can bind to the view model's text3 property. So up here we will create a state object var model equals view model, and now we can bind to this property here. So $model dot text3. Okay. So now we actually need to observe the changes, and as I already hinted before, we will use combine publishers for that. So first of all, let's import combine. Now let's go into our view model, and we will actually do all the logic inside of the view model now. For the sake of simplicity, I will put it into the initializer, but usually you would either create a computed variable for this or create a function for this. Now, since our text3 variable has the published property wrapper, you can actually use this as a publisher. And to do that, you once again use the dollar syntax, $text3, and now, as you can see, we can subscribe to this publisher. So I will use this simpler overload of the sync method, hit enter once again. This is almost the exact same as the onChange method. So we get a new value here, and then we can, for example, print the new value again. Now, if you've already watched the combine video, then you know that we need to store the subscription somewhere. So let's say .store in, and for that we will just create a private var cancelables, which is just a set of any cancelable. And now we can store the subscription in this set, and that way it will be kept in memory. Okay, so let's try out this third version. Okay, so I will open the text field, I will type something, and as you can see, once again the text is instantly printed to the console, because this code here is run every time that the text3 variable, which we bound to the text field, is updated. Okay, so here you can see the 3 versions which you can use to observe text field changes. And personally, I prefer the last version because, once again, you can separate the logic into the view model and only have your UI in the view. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel because there is much more content to come. Bye!